The message came without warning. It was a sharp pulse of sound, then a repeating code, echoing across the cold galaxy. Every listening station, every sensor array, every ship that could hear it froze in shock. It was an SOS. Alien crews stared at their screens, whispering in fear. "Who sent this?" one voice asked. Another replied, trembling. "The signal comes from Sector 9, the Death World." The word Death World made even hardened soldiers look uneasy. That cursed planet was famous across the stars, a place of raging storms, oceans that swallowed entire islands, beasts with claws like knives, and skies full of fire. No species could live there. No one except the humans. For a long time, silence filled the council chamber of the Galactic Alliance. Tall, insect-like creatures rubbed their wings nervously. Slender grey beings with glowing eyes muttered to each other in their strange, clicking language. The massive, scaled leaders of the Sarn hissed softly, their tails lashing the floor. Finally, the speaker of the council, a tall alien with a silver crown-like crest, stood. "Deathworlders have sent for help," the speaker said slowly. "Humans, who claim they need nothing, who survive where no other life can, are calling us?" A low wave of murmurs spread through the chamber. "Impossible," one commander spat. His skin was dark blue, his armor gleaming. "Humans never ask for help. Maybe they are broken," said another. "Maybe their world has fallen." The speaker raised a hand. "Or maybe this is something else." The words lingered in the air like smoke across the galaxy. Fear spread faster than light. Civilian colonies whispered about the end of humanity. Traders feared war. Soldiers sharpened their blades and charged their weapons. If humans were truly desperate, what kind of enemy could force them to cry out? Hours passed. Then a decision was made. The council would send fleets. Dark shapes moved through space. Hundreds of alien warships cut across the stars, engines burning like angry suns. Crews inside their ships watched the Deathworld system grow larger on their displays. The fleet commander, a veteran with scarred scales and one missing eye, spoke into the comms. "Stay sharp. We do not know what waits for us. If humans called, then the threat is greater than we can imagine." The fleets entered the system slowly. First came the wreckage. Broken satellites floated in silence. Shattered hulls of small ships drifted, their metal twisted and burned. The alien crews gasped at the sight. "They are destroyed," a young officer whispered. "The humans are gone." The commander narrowed his good eye. "Too easy." They pushed forward. The planet loomed in the distance, covered in swirling storms and jagged mountains. Nothing moved, nothing answered. And then faint signals began to flicker across the scanners. At first they looked like static, random bursts of energy, but soon the signals lined up, a pattern, a rhythm, a code. "Sir," an officer said, slowly, "these are not distress signals." "What are they then?" the commander demanded. The officer's voice shook. "Coordinates. They are giving us coordinates." The fleet followed, engines humming. The coordinates led them into the shadow of a broken moon, where debris spun like knives in the darkness. The alien ship slowed, slipping through the graveyard of stone and metal. And then the stars blinked. No comma, not stars. Ships. Massive human warships emerged from the shadows, their black hulls glinting with silent menace. They had been waiting, hidden, cloaked by the shattered moon. A cold voice cut through the comms. "It was human. Message received," the voice said. "Thanks for coming." The alien commander's blood ran cold. "It was a trap," he whispered. Before he could speak another word, the first human ship fired. Explosions lit up the darkness. Like suns, alien ships twisted and broke under the sudden assault. Fighters poured from the Deathworlders' fleet, swarming with deadly precision. "Return fire!" the commander roared, but his words were drowned by alarms and screams. Human. Ships moved like predators, striking fast, vanishing, then striking again. Alien beams missed their targets. Missiles were intercepted before they could even fly halfway. The humans were everywhere, and they were merciless. On one bridge, an alien officer clutched his head. But why? Why send the SOS? A dying commander whispered the answer as flames swallowed him. Because they wanted us to come. The truth sank in with terrible weight. Humans had not cried for help. They had called the galaxy into their hunting ground. Hours later, silence returned to the system. Alien wrecks floated where proud warships once flew. Only a handful of survivors escaped, their engines burning with desperation as they fled into the deep void. In the human fleet, the warships regrouped. Their black hulls gleamed with the reflection of ruined enemies. On the flagship, the human commander stood, his voice cold and sharp. "They came just as expected," he said. "Let them carry the story home. Let them remember. Never answer a human distress call." His crew nodded silently. The trap had worked. The galaxy would learn its lesson. Far away, in the council chamber, the survivors' broken ships finally returned. They carried only fear and stories. One trembling captain fell to his knees before the speaker. "It was not an SOS," he cried. "It was bait. The humans wanted us there." The speaker's crest dimmed. His voice was heavy with dread. "Then the Deathworlders are worse than we feared." Silence filled the chamber. Everyone understood. Humanity had not called for help. Humanity had sent a warning. And that warning was simple. We are not prey. We are the hunters. The council chamber was vast, a hollow dome of silver metal that seemed to stretch into the stars themselves. Rows of alien leaders sat in silence, their faces lit by the faint blue glow of floating screens. News of the massacre had reached them. The Deathworlders had struck back. One by one. Survivors from the fleet had sent desperate transmissions before their signals vanished into static. Now, only a few crippled ships remained, limping back to safety, carrying tales of horror. The chamber was filled with whispers, nervous clicks, and the faint hum of machines. The speaker of the council rose slowly. His tall body shimmered with faint light from his crest, but his voice carried no strength. "The message was not an SOS," he said. "It was a trap. The humans, they fooled us." A hiss of anger rippled across the chamber. An insectoid general slammed his claw on the metal table. "This is treachery. They lured our fleets and destroyed them like prey. We must answer with fire." A grey-skinned diplomat shook his long head. His glowing eyes blinked slowly as he replied, "You saw the reports, you heard the screams. Our fleets did not even touch them. To attack again is suicide." The insectoid leaned forward, mandibles clicking. "And to do nothing? To let them humiliate us before the galaxy?" Another voice joined in, this one deep and heavy. A massive, scaled commander of the San coiled his tail around his chair. His sharp teeth glistened as he growled, "The Deathworlders have always been dangerous. We called them savages, but perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps they are hunters who wear the mask of prey." The chamber fell silent at his words. A smaller councillor, pale and trembling, spoke nervously. "But why would they send the false SOS? What do they want from us?" The speaker's crest dimmed. His voice was heavy. "They want us to fear. They want us to remember that no one should come when they call. It was not a request for help. It was a warning." The words echoed in the chamber. Fear thickened the air. Far across the stars. In the ruins of the shattered fleet, the survivors drifted in silence. A single ship, its hull cracked and burning, limped back toward Allied space. Inside, the crew whispered about what they had seen. "They didn't fight like soldiers," one officer said weakly, his voice trembling. "They fought like predators." "They knew we were coming," another muttered. "They counted on it." The captain of the ship, his body wrapped in bandages, closed his eyes. "The humans are not asking for rescue. They are sending a message to the galaxy. Stay away. Back in the council chamber, debates grew louder. The insectoid general shouted, "We must unite our fleets, gather every ship and crush them before they grow stronger." The grey diplomat replied calmly, "You do not crush a storm. You hide until it passes." Another councillor, a tall being with crystalline skin, raised his voice. "If we attack and fail again, the galaxy will see us broken. If we do nothing, we look weak. Either way, the humans win." The speaker lowered his head. His eyes were cold. The Deathworlders already won. The question is not how to fight them, but how to survive them. The chamber erupted with voices. Some demanded war, some begged for peace. Some whispered of abandoning the outer colonies, leaving them to the humans' wrath. And through it all, a single truth settled in every mind. Humanity had changed the game. Later that night, when the chamber was empty, two councillors remained. Their voices were hushed, their faces tense. "You felt it too, didn't you?" One asked softly. The other nodded. "Yes. The humans planned this for years. They waited for the right moment. They knew we would come when they called." "Then what do we do?" The answer came with a shiver. "We pray they do not call again." Far away, in hidden corners of space, alien spies reported strange sightings. Human ships moving silently through dark systems. Ghost signals bouncing between asteroids. Colonies abandoned without a trace, as if the humans had walked through and left only silence behind. The reports were brought to the council. None wanted to read them. None wanted to admit the truth. The humans were not defending themselves. They were hunting. Days passed. Fear spread across the galaxy like a sickness. Merchants changed their trade routes to avoid human sectors. Colonies whispered of evacuation. Even soldiers, the proud warriors of many species, avoided speaking the name of the Deathworlders. Aloud. The galaxy had faced wars before. It had seen conquerors rise and fall. But this was different. Humanity had not claimed territory, demanded tribute, or threatened destruction. They had done something far more terrifying. They had sent out a signal, a simple SOS. And when the galaxy answered, they turned it into a graveyard. At the next council gathering, the speaker ended the debates with one final decree. His crest glowed faintly, his voice heavy with finality. "No one will respond to a human signal again, not a call for aid, not a cry for mercy, not even a warning. The Deathworlders stand alone." A silence deeper than space fell over the chamber. The decree was agreed upon, but no one celebrated. Every leader in that chamber knew the truth. Humans had not asked for help. They had not needed rescue. They had only wanted to remind the galaxy of what they were. Hunters, survivors, Deathworlders. And somewhere, in the darkness of space, the humans listened to the silence their trap had created. They knew no one would ever come when they called again. And that was exactly what they wanted. The order was given. Hundreds of warships prepared for launch. Docking stations lit up with fire as engines roared, shaking the void. The council had decided they would send their strongest fleets to the Deathworld system. Some believed it was a show of power, others whispered it was desperation. Either way, the galaxy watched. The flagship of the Allied Armada was vast, a fortress of steel and flame. On its bridge, the commander stood tall, his scarred face hard as stone. His single remaining eye glared at the swirling display of stars. "Stay disciplined," he growled to his crew. "Do not underestimate the humans. Their tricks will not work twice." But deep inside, even he doubted his words. The journey was long, yet filled with tension. Crews whispered in low voices as they worked. Officers avoided saying the word human, aloud, as if the sound itself could summon danger. Some soldiers sharpened their blades in silence. Others stared at pictures of their families, wondering if they would see them again. A young officer, voice shaking, asked his superior, "Sir, what if the SOS was never real? What if this is another trap?" The older officer sighed. His armor was old, scratched from countless battles. "Then we will do what we always do, fight." But he hesitated, his eyes darkening. "Pray it is not." At last, the fleet entered. The Deathworld system. The planet loomed in the distance, a sphere wrapped in storms and shadow. Lightning flashed across its surface, lighting up jagged mountains and dark seas. The world seemed alive, angry, watching. The first scans came back almost immediately. "Debris field ahead," an officer reported. His hands trembled as he read the data. "Wreckage from satellites and ships. No power, no life signs." The commander narrowed his eye. "Show me." On the screen, the image appeared, twisted metal drifting in silence, broken hulls floating like bones in space. The crew muttered nervously. "They're finished," someone whispered. "The humans are dead." Another shook his head. "Humans don't die so easily." The commander raised his voice. "Silence, push forward." The fleet moved cautiously. Ships glided through the graveyard of wreckage, weapons charged, shields humming. Every shadow looked dangerous, every signal suspicious. But nothing moved. Hours passed. The fleet split into groups, scanning every corner of the system. Reports returned empty. No ships, no signals, no humans. A nervous officer finally spoke. "Sir, maybe the Deathworlders destroyed themselves. Their planet is too violent, their species too reckless. Maybe this time they could not survive." The commander's lip curled. "And maybe you are a fool. Humans have survived worse than storms and monsters. Keep scanning." Then something flickered on the screens. A faint signal, weak, almost invisible, like static. At first the crew thought it was noise, but the pattern returned, short, long, short again. "Sir," the officer whispered, "it's not random. It's a code." The commander's eye narrowed. "Translate it." The officer swallowed. His voice shook as he read the message. "Coordinates." The bridge went silent. "Coordinates to what?" another officer asked. The commander's voice was low. "To where they want us." Fear spread across the room like fire. The fleet obeyed the coordinates, moving deeper into the system. Engines burned bright against the darkness as the ships passed into the shadow of a shattered moon. Huge fragments of rock drifted slowly, casting long shadows across the stars. Inside the flagship, the commander's claws tapped the rail. "Careful! Watch every angle. If they hide, it will be here." The ship slowed. Sensors swept the area. Nothing. Only silence, broken moonlight, and drifting stone. "False alarm," one officer muttered. "There is nothing." And then the stars themselves blinked. At first, the crew thought the sky had shifted, but no, the blinking stars were not stars at all. They were ships. Massive human warships emerged from the shadows, their black hulls blending perfectly with the void. Lights flared along their edges, cold and sharp like the eyes of predators. The crew gasped in horror. "They were here all along," someone whispered. A voice crackled through the comms. "Calm, cold, human." "Message received," the voice said. "Thanks for coming." The commander froze. His single eye widened. "It's a trap," he whispered. Before he could shout orders, the first human ship fired. A blinding beam cut through the dark, slicing an alien cruiser in half. Explosions rippled through the fleet. Sirens wailed. Crews shouted, panic filled. The comms, "Shields up, return fire." The commander roared. But it was already too late. Human ships moved with terrifying precision. They struck from every angle, vanishing into shadows, then reappearing with deadly fire. Alien weapons fired wildly, missing their targets. One by one, ships broke apart, their flames swallowed by the void. On the bridge, an officer cried out, How do they move so fast? How do they know where we are? The commander's voice was grim. Because they wanted us here. They planned every step. The human voice returned, calm and merciless. You thought you answered a distress call, but you only answered the hunt. Chaos reigned, ships burned, crews screamed. The galaxy's proud fleet was torn apart like prey before predators dot. And in the middle of it all, the humans moved like shadows, their warships cutting through the void with cold, ruthless power. The SOS had led them here. And now there was no escape. When the battle was over, silence returned. The broken remains of the fleet drifted, lifeless. Only a handful of survivors fled into the darkness, their ships crippled, their voices trembling. On the human flagship, the commander watched. The wreckage. His voice was quiet but sharp as a blade. Let them run, he said. Let them tell the story. His crew nodded silently. The trap had worked. The SOS was never a call for rescue. It was bait. And the galaxy had taken it. The battle began with fire. Human warships burst from the shadows, their weapons cutting through the alien armada with merciless precision. The void lit up in flashes of red and white, burning like suns. Alien crews screamed as ships split apart, hulls tearing, engines exploding. On the flagship of the Allied fleet, alarms wailed. Officers shouted over each other, panic spreading like wildfire. They're everywhere, one cried. We can't track them, shields failing. Another yelled. The commander stood in the center of the chaos, his single eye locked on the battlefield. His claws gripped the rails so tightly that sparks scraped from the metal. Hold formation, he roared. Return fire! Do not let them scatter us. But it was already too late. Human ships were not just attacking, they were hunting. An alien cruiser turned its guns toward a shadow, firing bursts of plasma into the void. The shots hit nothing. Then, from the opposite side, a human destroyer appeared and fired a single beam. The cruiser split apart like glass, its fragments spinning into the black dot. On another flank, alien fighters tried to swarm together, forming a shield wall. A cold human voice cracked through the comms. Predictable. A wave of missiles streaked through the fighters, weaving around their formation as if guided by instinct. The ships exploded in a chain of fire. Alien officers on the flagship could only stare, their faces pale with dread. They knew, one whispered. They knew every move before we made it. The commander's voice was heavy. Because this was their design, every signal, every coordinate. They wanted us here. The realization spread like poison. The SOS was never real. The wreckage they saw had been placed. The signals had been crafted. Every step the fleet took had been guided by invisible hands. On the bridge of a human flagship, the Deathworlders watched calmly. Their commander, a tall figure in black uniform, stood before the glowing screens. His voice was steady, sharp as a blade. Keep pressure on the flanks. Break their shields, then cut the center. Leave survivors. They will carry the message. A young human officer asked, "And if they refuse to flee?" The commander's eyes were cold. "Then none will live to refuse." The Allied fleet tried to regroup. Ships turned inward, shields overlapping, weapons firing in all directions. It was a desperate attempt to create safety in the storm. But the humans adapted instantly. They moved like wolves circling prey, striking at weak points, pulling ships away from the formation. The aliens fought hard, but fear ate their discipline. On the flagship, an officer shouted, "We must retreat. If we stay, we are finished." The commander growled, "Retreat, and the humans will chase us down. Stand, and we may yet survive." But even as he spoke, his heart knew the truth. Survival was slipping away. A sudden voice cut across the comms, calm, human, merciless. "Your fleet answered our call. Now you pay the price." The alien officers froze. The commander bared his teeth. Cowards, hiding in shadows, striking from behind. The human voice did not change. "Not cowards, hunters. You came to our trap, and now you bleed." With those words, another barrage slammed into the flagship. The ship shook violently, lights flickering. Panels exploded in sparks. Smoke filled the air. "Shields down to 40%, someone cried. "We've lost engines 3 and 4. Another shouted. The commander's claws dug into the rail. "Keep fighting. If we fall with honor." But outside, the battlefield told a different story. Alien ships were breaking apart one after another, their cries vanishing into the cold, dark dot. Among the chaos, a single alien frigate broke formation and fled. Its engines flared bright, cutting through the black. Human ships turned toward it, but the commander on the flagship raised a hand. "Let it go," he ordered. "Let them spread the story." His officers hesitated. "Sir, if they return, they will not return. Fear will do more than destruction." The battle dragged on, but its end was certain. Human ships closed in, tearing apart what remained. Of the armada, alien voices screamed across the comms, then vanished one by one into silence. On the flagship, fire spread across the bridge. Officers staggered, smoke filling their lungs. The commander stood tall in the flames, his single eye burning with rage. He whispered, almost to himself, "We should never have come." The last explosion tore through the ship, and his voice was gone. When the battlefield finally grew quiet, the humans stood victorious. Their ships drifted among the wreckage, scanning, watching. No alien resistance remained. On the human flagship, the commander looked at the shattered remains of the armada. His voice was calm, almost cold. "Transmit." "The signal," he said. A young officer nodded. "What message, sir?" The commander's eyes narrowed. "The same as before. Another SOS." The officer's breath caught. "Sir." After this, the commander's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Yes, let them answer again. Let them come. Every time they do, the galaxy will remember who we are." The officer pressed the command. Across the stars, a new SOS pulsed outward, to every station, to every fleet, to every world. In distant space, receivers picked up the signal. Alarm bells rang. Whispers spread through colonies and councils. Another cry for help from the humans. And with it came a shadow of fear, heavier than before. Everyone knew the truth now. Everyone remembered the trap. But the question remained, would anyone dare to answer again? The battlefield was a graveyard. Alien wrecks drifted in silence, torn open like broken shells. Fires burned dimly in the vacuum, sparks fading into the endless dark. The proud armada of the council was gone, and in its place, the Deathworlders stood, silent hunters in black warships, their engines glowing like the eyes of predators. On the human flagship, the commander watched the wreckage through the vast windows. His voice was low but steady. "Status report, minimal damage," an officer replied. "Shields held, ammunition reserves at 80%. The commander gave a slow nod. "Good. They underestimated us, as always." Another officer turned from his console, his voice uncertain. "Sir, should we pursue the survivors?" The commander's lips curved into a cold smile. "No. Let them live. Let them carry the story back. Fear will do the work for us." Far from the battlefield, the survivors ran. Their ships burned and limped through space, engines sputtering. Crews sat in silence, their eyes wide, their hands trembling. Some whispered prayers, others simply stared into nothing. On one damaged cruiser, a young officer muttered, "We walked into their jaws. The SOS was bait, and we were the meal." The captain, his face pale with smoke burns, whispered back, "No, not the meal. The message. That's what we are now." The young officer frowned. "Message?" The captain nodded weakly. We will spread their story. That's what the humans wanted all along. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, signals from the survivors reached Allied space. Panic spread like wildfire. Civilian colonies cried out for protection. Armies demanded new strategies. The council gathered in haste, fear hanging heavy in the chamber. An insectoid general slammed his claws against the table. They humiliated us. They turned our fleet into ash. A grey-skinned diplomat shook his head, his glowing eyes dimmed, as he replied, "No, they turned our fleet into a warning." The Speaker of the Council leaned forward, his crest trembling faintly. "And what warning is that?" The diplomat's voice was hollow. "That no one should ever answer a human." "Call again." The chamber fell silent. The truth was too heavy to deny. Back on the Deathworlder flagship, the humans prepared their next move. Officers stood ready, weapons primed, eyes sharp with determination. A young officer asked, "Sir, what now? Do we return to Earth or wait for the next fleet?" The commander turned slowly. His voice was calm, but his words carried iron. "We move forward. They think we only defend. They think we hide in shadows. They are wrong. Now we strike." The bridge grew still. Soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. "Strike where, sir?" one finally asked. The commander's eyes glowed in the dim light of the monitors, where it hurts them most, their strongholds, their colonies, their pride. The fleet moved like a storm. Engines roared, tearing through the void. Within hours, the humans appeared at the edges of Allied systems. Colonies that once laughed at the Deathworlders now shook with fear. As black ships dropped from the stars, the first target was a military outpost, strong and well defended. Its walls were lined with weapons, its skies filled with patrol craft. The commander of the outpost smirked when the humans arrived. "Fools," he muttered. "They dare attack us here?" But the smirk vanished in minutes. The humans struck fast. Their weapons sliced through shields as if they were paper. Their fighters weaved between defenses with deadly accuracy. The outpost's guns fired wildly, hitting nothing. Within an hour, the base lay in ruins, its survivors scrambling in panic. The human commander gave a single order: "Leave them alive." And so the survivors fled, their voices carrying the same story across the stars. The Deathworlders had moved from defense to attack. The galaxy shook. Systems that once mocked humans now lived in fear of their shadow. Fleets hesitated to launch. Colonies demanded withdrawal from human borders. Merchants abandoned entire trade routes. The humans had not just destroyed ships, they had destroyed confidence. In the council chamber, voices rose in panic. "They will not stop," one leader shouted. "They want war with us all." Another cried. The speaker raised a trembling hand. "No, they do not want war. They want memory. They want us to remember what they are." The words settled like stones in the chamber. None could deny it. On the flagship, the human commander stood tall, his gaze fixed on the stars. Officers gathered around him, waiting for his decision. One finally spoke. "Sir, why do we let them live? Why not finish them?" The commander turned, his face carved in stone. His voice was cold, each word deliberate. "Because dead enemies are forgotten. Living enemies tell stories, and stories travel faster than ships." The crew nodded, their eyes filled with grim understanding. Later, as silence returned to the void, a message pulsed once more across the galaxy. It was the same as before. An SOS. Simple, sharp, calling for help. But now, every species that heard it froze. Every leader, every soldier, every citizen felt the same chill. They all knew what it meant. The Deathworlders were not calling for rescue. They were calling for prey. And the galaxy had no choice but to listen. The galaxy was not the same anymore. For centuries, the Council of Worlds had ruled with order and certainty. Their fleets were unmatched, their laws unquestioned. But now whispers of fear spread faster than any decree. People no longer spoke of the council with pride. They spoke of the Deathworlders, humans who had risen from their small blue planet and turned the balance of power upside down. On Earth's flagship, silence filled the command deck. The crew sat at their stations, eyes fixed on their commander. He stood at the front window, watching the stars. His face was calm, but his voice carried weight. "It's time," he said softly. A young officer tilted her head. "Time for what, sir?" The commander's eyes never left the stars. "The final message." The words sent a ripple through the room. Some exchanged nervous glances. Others straightened, waiting. "What kind of message?" another officer asked. Carefully. The commander turned at last. His expression was unreadable. "The kind they cannot ignore. The kind they will remember for generations." Far across space, the council gathered again. Leaders filled the chamber, their voices rising in fear and anger. "They strike and vanish," one cried. "Our colonies burn," another shouted. "They don't conquer, they haunt us." The Speaker of the Council raised a trembling hand. "Silence!" The noise faded, though fear still clung to every corner. The Speaker's voice was heavy. "Reports say the Deathworlders prepare something greater, something final. Does anyone know what it is?" No one answered. Only silence remained, broken by the distant hum of the chamber lights. Then a messenger burst in, her scales pale with panic. "A signal!" she cried. "A new transmission from human space!" All eyes turned. The chamber froze. "Play it," the speaker ordered. The transmission began with static. Then a voice, cold and steady, filled the chamber. It was the human commander. "You called us savages," the voice said. "You called us fragile. You called us weak." The council leaders shifted uneasily. The voice continued. "You came to our world with threats. You tested our defenses. You tried to break us, but we endured. And now the galaxy knows what happens when you push Deathworlders too far." A pause, heavy, endless. Then the voice returned, sharper. "We do not seek your throne. We do not seek your crown. We seek only memory. You will remember us. Every time you hear an SOS, you will wonder if it is us. Every time you see shadows in the stars, you will fear it is us. We are not your enemy. We are your reminder." The signal cut off. Silence fell. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some shouted for war, others for surrender. Many simply sat in stunned silence. No one had ever spoken to them like this. Not with threats, but with certainty. Finally, the speaker whispered, "They do not want peace. They do not want war. They want fear." The words spread like cracks through stone. On the flagship, the commander turned away from the console. His officers looked at him, their faces tight with questions. "Sir," one asked, "do you think they'll attack again?" The commander's lips curved into the faintest smile. "We don't need to. The fear will grow on its own." Another officer frowned. "But what if they come together? What if they launch everything against us?" The commander's eyes hardened. "Then they will learn what happens when a galaxy unites against Deathworlders. They think they've seen our strength. They've only seen our patience." The room went quiet. His words carried a chill that no weapon could match. Weeks passed. The humans did not strike again. Their ships vanished into the dark, leaving only rumors behind. Yet their silence was more terrifying than their attacks. On one distant colony, guards panicked when a sensor picked up an unidentified signal. It turned out to be a drifting asteroid. But the fear was already there. On another world, civilians refused to travel through certain trade routes, terrified of running into human ships. The galaxy was not at war with Earth, but it lived as if war could come at any second. One night on the flagship, the young officer who had asked about the message stood beside the commander. The stars stretched endless before them. "Sir," she said softly. Was it worth it, making them fear us this way? The commander's gaze was steady. Fear keeps them away. Fear protects Earth. Sometimes fear is the shield we need, she hesitated, then asked, and if they never forget us? The commander's eyes narrowed slightly. Then we have achieved exactly what we wanted. Back in the council chamber, the speaker sat alone after the others had left. He stared into the dark, his thoughts heavy. The humans had not destroyed the council with weapons. They had destroyed it with something far more dangerous: doubt. Every decision, every plan, every gathering was now shadowed by the same question: what? If the humans are watching, the speaker whispered to himself, they are not ghosts. They are not gods. They are only men and women from a small world. And yet they have become the story we cannot silence. He lowered his head. Perhaps that was their victory all along. Back on the flagship, the humans sent one last signal. Into the stars. It was not a threat. It was not a warning. It was only 3 words. We are here. The message spread through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. And everywhere it reached, fear followed. For the galaxy had learned the truth. The Deathworlders did not need to conquer worlds. They only needed to be remembered. And they would be forever.